Well, I lived in a village
Hmm.
and we didn't go away for holidays because we didn't have the money. So we used to go up to what we called the falls. The falls were the result of a big dam disaster.
Hmm.
Um, the cement was badly mixed or of poor quality. The lake above the wall dam broke, and down came the water, creating huge disaster. It was called the dam disaster. And there's a photo on the computer that will show you. And I think there's a photo somewhere here showing my mother, father, and brothers and sisters on the road below our house after the dam disaster. I think 16 people lost their lives, I think. And there was a Mr. Evans, and everybody in our village had nicknames. And Mr. Evans's name was Mr. Evans Cutthroat because we think, at least it's my theory, that Mr. Evans tried to cut his throat with an open razor because his wife and his two daughters were washed away in the dam disaster.
Oh.
So I think he was depressed, and that's why we called him Mr. Evans Cutthroat. Um, there was a woman next door. She was called Mrs. Owen Bandy Legs because she had bandy legs. We were very cruel in the village, calling everybody, giving them all a name. There was Hughie Gordon. He was spastic, and we used to call him the cripple. Then there was a very kind lady, Mrs. Carpenter, and Mrs. Carpenter used to let us go to her house to have a bath in a real bathtub. And she used to stoke her little fireplace. I can't remember what you call it. It's not a furnace. It's not. I can't remember. Anyway,
Was it a wood stove?
Stoke it and heat the water so that we could have a bath. And how we got from my house to her house, I don't know. And who provided the towels, I have no idea. And then there were at the end of the road. But there was before you got to the end of the road, there was a girl. Her name was Catherine Jones, and I think she played tennis. I think so. We considered her a bit of a snob. And then there was Mr. Owen. No, Mr. What was his name? Mr. Thomas, the timekeeper. He set the clocks over at the aluminum works. he's at the Cox. So the people who had to go to work in the aluminium works, they had to clock in and clock out. So the time had to be accurate, and it had to be posted. So he was called Mr. Thomas Timekeeper. And there were other people down below on another road. I remember jumping off the wall up above down to the road below, and I can feel the jarring of my spine even now. So I'm going to tell you a story about Mr. Turner.
You want to talk about Mr. Turner?
Mr. Turner.
Okay.
On the way home from school one day, crossing over the bridge, that was the result of a dam disaster. There were rocks below and a fence on the right-hand side made of just wires in posts. So I got through that little fence. I wasn't little, I went all the way down the road. I got through the fence and onto a wall and jumped off the wall down below. And there was the salmon, because up above, on top of the bridge, I kept screaming out, "Oh, a salmon! A salmon!" So I went down to look at the salmon, and Mr. Turner heard me. And he came down, and he knocked the salmon on the head, and he took the salmon to his house. So I went home for tea, which was really what we call dinner here. I went home and I told my father the story about Mr. Turner knocking the salmon on the head and with a stone. So my dad, he was a lovely man. He had huge hands. At least I thought so at the time. So he took my little hand in his big hand, and we walked right across the village to Mr. Turner's house. And he knocked at the door, and Mrs. Turner came to the door, which was the usual thing, the woman coming to the door. Anyway, Dad said, "I want to see Mr. Turner." So Mr. Turner came, and they were preparing the salmon ready for cooking. So Dad said, Audrey told me the story, and you've got to give her half the salmon. So he gave me half the salmon, and we brought it home. And I figure we had it for dinner. Usually you had peas and salmon, and the peas were sprinkled with sugar. Peas in samosa.
So
We used to have new potatoes. So that's what we had in 17 Hillside. And So that's the story. Mrs. Turner used to sing in the choir in the church, and she had a screechy voice, screeching. So that's the story of Mr. Turner. And what was the other story? Megan.
Yeah, it was Megan.
Well, Megan had